I think we're good to go. Great. Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'd like to introduce Padmini Shankar, short story writer and author who has been living in Dubai for many years. Her debut novel, The Mother of All Parties, was co published by HarperCollins and Black King Books earlier this year. Her book has been called a smashing debut by reviewers and it has been very well received by readers. She describes the book herself as a fun romp through the incredible lives of Dubai's wealthy. To top everything off, the book's screen rights have just been acquired, so we may see it on the screen
Just unmute yourself, Niharika.
Yes. So I'm Niharika and I'm going to be moderating this talk. I'm very excited to be here. My debut novel, Adulting, also published by the same publisher, so we share a publisher. It was published last year, it did well as well, and it's about millennials. However, certain themes like finding oneself, finding confidence within, they're very common with Padmini's book, and I will be bringing my point of view to the discussion. It will be from a generation apart, but hopefully it will make for interesting conversations. So, Padmini, over to you. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your life at LSR?
Oh, well, I um, uh, I think those were the best years of my life. Um, and what I remember about LSR was, not all my friends and the kind of holistic education I received. You know, like my teachers were really fabulous. I remember many of my old teachers, among them Malti Varma, Mrs. Malti Varma, and we had funny nicknames for them, like we all have. And Meenakshi Mukherjee and Dr. Meenakshi Mukherjee. And the best thing was all my beautiful friends there, which really made it so memorable. And like in LSR, it was a kind of very holistic education that we had. Like we were exposed to so many things, not just our books, but plays and movies and talks. We always had somebody or the other coming and giving us a talk, and I think that was really something which made me what I am today and made all of us what we are today.
So, having read your book, Pam from the book, she's a staunch feminist. So, did LSR, as I'm sure it did for all of us, so how did it help shape your feminist identity?
Well, in LSR is an all-female college, of course, where you are supposed to be your own self, follow your path and so on. Actually, in the book, the protagonist was a feminist, but she found herself in a situation where she couldn't really follow that feminist path. She was playing second fiddle to her husband.
Right.
And that's something which many of us do find ourselves doing, even though she was, a professional in her own right. Um, she was still made to feel less than her husband, and that is one of the themes of the book. That how she comes into her own, but at the end.
Absolutely. So I agree. I remember that when I was at LSR, we would study feminism, but as the years go by, I feel like I'm losing that feminist identity. And I'm not sure if that is growing up or if that is something that I'm losing. And in your experience, what is a good way to hold on to all these ideals that we had in college? Like Pam had to have a journey within to figure that out, right? But for all of us who don't want to get, bogged down by society, what are your thoughts on this?
Um, I think it's just you have to have confidence in yourself and confidence in your abilities, and just do your own thing. Don't listen to other voices which are trying to pull you down. And I think it's a struggle which all of us go through at some time or the other. We just have to just follow our inner voices and do our own thing.
Great. And why don't you introduce the book and Pam to everybody? And maybe you could read a bit from it.
Yeah, sure. Well, for those of you who haven't read my book as yet, I think some of you here, I can see that some of you have read it, but it's about a woman it's set in Dubai, and it's about this woman called Pam, who is married to a I mean, he's a very wealthy person who doesn't treat her badly, but who kind of takes her for granted. And she's just, and she has to move with people with whom she's not very comfortable. Like they're women who are very cliquey, and so it's and then a lot of things happen to her. She makes the decision to host a party which is the mother of all parties, because she's humiliated. Oh yeah, there's another character called Honey Serene, and Honey kind of undermines Pam. She's the head of that clique, and she keeps putting her down. So Pam thinks that she has to be better than Honey. I mean, that is her, what should I say?
Motivation.
Yeah, that's her motivation. But she realizes at the end that, she shouldn't be in competition with anybody. And that's what the book is about. On the outside theme is a party, but it's got other things packed into it. Yeah.
Great. Can you give us maybe a bit of an intro to Honey? Maybe if you want to read out the bit where we meet her.
Well, I can tell you about Honey, the name Honey. It was actually a friend, not a friend. It was somebody in school. There was a girl called Honey Serene, and she was, I remember that the teacher, she said something very nasty about somebody else, and the teacher, I remember her telling her, look at your name and look at your nature. There's such a contrast between the two, and that's how I picked out that name for this character. And besides that, I must tell you that some of the things which I have described in this book are true. For the most part, it is fiction, but some of the names of the characters, I knew a Rosemary Thomas, I knew a Pavi. All these names are there in the book, and they were there with me in school, and I'm sure they'll never get to know that I've written this book and used their name, so I'm quite safe. But anyway, I'm just going to read a little bit of the book, because I know I don't want to bore you all to death. So here we go. This is just the opening. The buxom black woman and the tall, leggy blonde spun around the stage, revealing a lot of thigh and a bit of sequin knicker. I elbowed Raj, scrunched up beside me, squirming and looking every which way but at the show. As soon as the applause stopped, he stood up and walked to the far end of the manicured lawn. Robbie Rosario followed him like a faithful dog. How could the most important guest not be escorted? And I was left alone. Enjoying, Honey Serene's nasal voice floated in from behind. I froze. Honey didn't wait for my reply. She turned her attention to our hostess. It's such a clever idea, Gulgul. So simple and clever. A salt and pepper party. You're a genius. Thanks, honey. Gulgul's ears almost popped out a centimeter on either side as a smile stretched across her face. The idea came to me suddenly. I knew everyone would have a black and white outfit, so it would be easy to do. Honey then turned her attention to me. Pam, you look so cute. Her voice went up on cute. Did you buy this dress in last year's sale? So, and it goes on. All right.
So I think I love Honey's character specifically because I know a couple of people like that. And do you have any suggestions on how to deal with the Honey Serenes in our lives?
I think, honey, I think we've all come across women like this who are very, who are kind of, they have this clique. I mean, many women are cliquey. There are many cliques, and there's always the head of the clique who kind of controls everybody else. And it's very hard. It's not easy. Like, I'm sure I've been confronted with these cliques, even not just among friends, but even in the workplace. And it is very hard to really confront them and but I think what happens ultimately is that the clique loses the, I mean, people see through that person, see what a sham they are. So that does help you. And, well, you have to just try to be your own self. I don't really have specific points to say. I think each one deals with this in their own way.
Yes, and I guess that's what your book is about, right, Pam? Finding herself. So, while the parties and the shosha is one aspect of your book, can you tell us a bit about the main conflicts of the novel?
Well, it's the theme is a party. Like, it's called the mother of all parties, and many people think it's just about parties, but the party is just the outward thing. It's also about a woman who finds herself, and
She has a troubled relationship with her daughter.
yes, the relationship between her and her daughter was a very troubled relationship. Her marriage was not going well. She was, kind of. It was a very. It was not on the rocks. I won't say her marriage was on the rocks, but it was a very lackluster marriage. There was no passion in the marriage. And then she had all these bitchy women around her to deal with, and she was, so it's about a woman who basically learns how to be herself.
And she comes out with flying colors at the end of the
Well,
novel.
I would say she learns the hard way.
Okay.
Yes, I wouldn't say she came out with flying colors, because there were some hard lessons she learned, and some things which she had to give up, like we all do in life. Yeah.
Yes, I know what you mean. And also, you have talked about a migrant worker. And I know that, Padmini taught English everybody for many years in Dubai, which we'll discuss later. But you've also taught English at a migrant workers camp, right? And then you have a migrant worker, Gangaram, who is a main character in the novel. So, can you tell us how you wrote about that? And I know from experience that it's not easy to represent a character you're not familiar with and to give that character authenticity. And
Yeah.
it's also a pretty brave thing to do. So, can you tell us how you did your research into that?
Yeah, well, Dubai has, like, it's got a big number of migrant workers who keep coming in the news. They sometimes there are fights in the camps and so on, and that's when you learn about them. But when I went to teach in the migrant workers camp, I actually was surprised that they were quite happy. They were not badly treated at all. Like, you only hear the bad news, in the newspaper. You don't see the good side of it. So they were quite well treated. And I just made up the story. I was a little bit afraid, because Dubai censorship is very strict, and if there's anything kind of against the country, they don't pass it. But I mean, there is nothing against. It's just one person's story. So the story is made up. I don't know anybody who actually underwent all this, but I did do a lot of research, online research, into these camps, and I based it on that. Yeah.
Great. And so now I know that when you moved to Dubai, it must have been very different from how Dubai is now. And so you worked as a teacher. You taught literature in high school for 7 years and English as a foreign language for 16 years at universities like Middlesex and Canadian. So And you've also written about the daughter in the novel. So, did these years help you understand the challenges that young people are going through? And did you end up taking sort of a mentor like role with these young kids?
Well, anybody who's a teacher knows that you have to also kind of be a mentor. You can't just be doing your subject and that's the end of it. So, yeah, I mean, I did do some amount of mentorship. I wasn't a counselor or anything like that. But whenever students had a problem or something, they would approach me and I'd try to sort it out. I mean,
And
you
this
do have
helped.
to understand help young people.
Absolutely, and I related to the daughter's character very much. So, maybe were these the kinds of things that helped you, or did the inspiration for the conflict between mother and daughter come from your own life?
No, it did not come from my own life, but I do know that daughters can be very, very uh, trying. And I mean, I just made it up actually. I mean, I wanted to write a story which is interesting. I don't want people to sleep over the story. You have to have lots of conflict, you have to have lots of drama. And so, mother daughter relationships are always very complicated. And that is why I wrote about it, just in the interest of the story.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And can you tell us a bit about the party scene in Dubai? What were the first parties like when you went?
Oh yeah, I think a lot. Those of us who are here in from Dubai, they'll know that the party scenes I've described are quite true to life. That there's always the best of food, and people do go over the top to entertain you. And so, except for the last party, except for Honey's party at the end, and I don't want to give any spoilers here because I want you all to read the book, and that is an exaggeration. But yeah, that there are, here it's there are lots of social groups, whether you belong to the very high society or whether you belong to a lower society. You tend to have a lot of friends, and on Thursdays and Fridays you meet up. I mean, this I'm talking about pre-COVID times. Much more than in India. I think in India you don't really meet up because life is entertaining enough in India and there's enough to do. But here you do go a little bit out of your way to have these parties. So it is. I mean, those readers who read it, they said, "My God, you've described it exactly as it is." So yeah.
And there's a bit I'd like to read where you talk about planning a guest list.
Mhm.
So you've mentioned there were three groups we mingled with: the uber wealthy, people like us, and the kitty cats, the A class, the wealthy, the B class, and what I term the C class, people like the CFOs of banks and directors of companies. So does the curation of a guest list really involve so much detailing and planning, or
I
is that just dramatic effect?
It's dramatic effect. I don't know a lot because it's fiction, and I made up a lot of stuff. So I just imagined if I were in that kind of role. But I have heard people who kind of say, "Okay, I mean, these people will go well with these people," and they mix and they only call a particular crowd. They don't call another crowd. But I have heard this kind of conversation, but all this is made up. I don't know, whether women in very high society really do this, but I presume there must be something like this happening.
Okay, sure. And so now when we talk about parties, we inevitably bring up, a bit of the clothes and the bags into the conversation. I
Yeah.
myself have faced this in Delhi, like, the desire to have a certain bag or a certain kind of shoe. So, how do we crack this nut? I mean, it's very normal to fit in, but Pam realizes later, right? So, how do we stay ahead or with the times without really putting uh, the wrong things as a priority?
Oh, that, Dubai is full of brands. I think much more than any other country in the world. There are brands, brands, brands. You go anywhere, and you see these ads, these billboards, which have all these luxury brands, and people do buy them. I mean, they go by brands. And again, I mean, there's nothing wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong in being brand conscious. Only you should not let it get beyond you. You should, it should be within limits. You should be able to afford it. You shouldn't buy the brand just because you want to be one up on somebody else. But honestly, I really don't see anything wrong. I mean, I'm not judging anybody for buying brands. I buy brands sometimes, of course. If I think something is really a good brand, I do buy it, and I'm sure all of us do that.
Yes, and you've expressed this conflict very beautifully at the end of the novel. When people read the novel, they'll see what we mean with the clothes that Pam decides to wear in the final party. But I'll leave that to the readers. Um, so now, when we come to Tikki, who is Pam's daughter in the novel, so you know how there is this certain Shosha that we have just been talking about, and then we have the younger generations who are affected by all of this. So are we getting very influenced by all this culture of brands and showing off, or do you think we can see through the veil? Because sometimes I feel children are affected the worst.
Um, you just see social media. It's all about one-upmanship, and you put your holidays, your best face forward on Facebook. Sometimes I don't even like to look at Facebook, because I see some things that you feel naturally kind of yeah, you're not living that exciting life
Yeah.
which people portray. And uh, and I think as parents, we have to kind of show our children, that this is not real life, you know and but in this story, Pam is in a situation where she has to party every day. She doesn't like wearing brands. She doesn't like wearing these clothes that she has to wear, but she's forced into it. So well, I'm sorry, it's not that she doesn't like it, but she's not very comfortable with it. And uh, this is something that I think I have to show the children, that this is not everything. And yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to preach that in the book. It's just one of those things which probably you as a young person have noticed.
Yes, yes, and I feel that while some people tend to follow follow the adults or the wrong path, but I can say for sure that if you're from LSR, you're not gonna buy into everything
Yeah,
without thinking twice.
yeah,
So yes, and there's another conflict which comes out very well because the novel is set in Dubai. A superficial meeting of West meeting East, and that is prevalent in Delhi also. And it's sort of like a identity disorder that young kids have. Like we don't know how Indian we are, how Western we are.
yeah.
So what do you? So since you've written this book in that setting, what do you have to say about this conflict?
um it's the kids who grow up here, like or like my children, they're what we call TCKs, third culture kids, and they really do uh, re- not know where exactly they belong. They do have a little bit of an identity crisis. But I mean, look, at heart, I'm 100% Desi. I don't. I mean, I may have a Western air or a but and I think most of my friends are the same. I mean, we still have our values, and I'm not saying Desi values are better than Western values. Some of the Western values are very good, and we should emulate them. But Dubai, you're more exposed to that. You're much more exposed to that, and yeah, it's especially actually that meeting of East and West is more to do with the fact that Dubai is so westernized. When you come here, you have these glittering buildings, and you have these fashionable people, but there are also these migrant workers. There are also third world problems here. There are it's a first world outlook, but there are many third world problems also. So that's what I meant by that.
Absolutely. And one other thing I wanted to get your opinion on is a lot of millennials these days, now again coming from the identity conflicts that we have, we're sort of prolonging the time that we get married at or that we have kids at. And Pam, who is of a different generation, she sort of has an identity crisis well into the marriage. So some people are of the opinion that millennials are growing up too late. Other people are of the opinion that they figure out their identity, they deal with the identity crisis, and then walk into a lifelong commitment. So what do you think of that?
Well, I 100% support the millennials. I think that's a very wise thing to do, that you first come to terms with yourself, you get your career, you find your own feet, and then you enter wedlock, you enter marriage. Because, I mean, marriage is not the be all and end all of life. And if you're happy to not be married, why not? So, I mean, that way I kind of envy the millennials for their freedom, which I think people of our generation, we didn't have that option at all. Or very few of us had that option. Yeah.
And is there anything else from the book that you'd like to highlight? For example, women friendships.
Yeah, well, the book does not really have female friendships at all. It's more one woman who's kind of pitted against these other, the frenemies. They happen to be your friends, but they're not really your friends. So, but of course, I do believe in solid female friendship. But this book does not really deal with that. There's no solid female. At the end, of course, Pam does find that all these women in the clique are actually nice, normal women, and that is also the growth of Pam, her awareness.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's very well formulated at the end, growth. How did you plot the novel? Did you use any structure?
Well, it took me 5 years to write this book. I would say longer than 5 years. It started off as something very different, written in third person, and then the story was very different. And then maybe I wrote about 7 drafts of it, and finally I decided that this last draft was it hit the sweet spot. And yeah, it was, I wanted something light and breezy. I wanted something which people would enjoy reading. I didn't want to write a serious novel, but it started off actually as a serious novel. But yeah, so this was how I began. I didn't plot it in the sense of, people write an outline to a story and then they follow that outline. No, I'm not that kind of writer. Although some people are successful like that, that's not the way I go about it. I just went about it naturally.
And did you always want to write this novel?
I always wanted to write a social satire because I love Jane Austen. And I mean, I think all of us, those of us who did Pride and Prejudice, or even those of us who didn't do English, we read Pride and Prejudice, and we all love that novel. It's so desi. Pride and Prejudice is such a desi novel, and so I always tend to like social satires. So. Yeah, I did want to write something on that for many years, and finally, I did do it.
Finally. And so, what have you learned about yourself through the whole writing process? I know it's not easy to write a book.
Yes, well, absolutely. I find that you just basically it's bums on seat. You have to sit down and do it. There's no other there's no shortcuts to it, and it's perseverance. I have got more confidence in myself. I've got more confidence in the fact that I can work hard, and so these are the things I've learned about myself, that maybe I can even write a second novel.
Great. And for Elsas who are watching, who are considering writing a novel, what would you say to them? So you've taught most of your life and then you decided to write a novel. So how did that go about?
Yeah, well, it's I think, like, you're young, you're a millennial, and you've written a novel, and I'm a late baby boomer, and I've written a novel. So I don't think there's any age as such to write a novel, but if you feel like writing one, even if you get half an hour of free time, write a little bit every day. That's what I can say. Believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, and you'll be able to do it.
And I think it comes with the knowing that there's a story within you that you want to express, right? And takes a lot of confidence to put it on the page, feeling like you have something valid to say, right?
Exactly. And if you love writing, you will do it. Like, I've always loved writing, and it's just that, sometimes life gets in the way. Like, you marry, you have kids, and then you're just caught up in that whole cycle of doing things for your kids, doing things for your husband, working yourself, your career. So um, you may not get the time, but if you can squeeze in even half an hour a day, it would help. I mean, I started writing actually when my kids had grown up, and I'd left my job also because of certain various reasons. So I found I had this time to myself, and that's when I started serious writing.
And was this in the morning or evening?
It could be any time of the day, but usually I'm a night owl. I like to work from midnight to 3 a.m. So
Okay.
if any of you call me up at that time, I'd be wide awake and ready to talk to you. Yeah.
And so when you completed the novel, what was the editing process like?
Yes, it's a very long. This is again for writers. Um, I you can never edit your own novel. You do one or two self edits. Then you have to get it professionally. This is what I did, at least. I got it professionally edited. Um, I went to a professional editor, made them read it, and they came back with their remarks on it. And then I had what is called beta readers. That is, a lot of friends, my sisters, for example, they read it. My relatives read it. Some of my friends in my book club, they read it. So that's very, very important, because all my beta readers pointed out very valuable things to me. They told me what worked. Like, for example, one of the readers, she said, what's it? Uh, at first I made Tiki just 16. And then she said, look, a 16-year-old will not behave like this. There's a vast difference between a 16-year-old girl and a 17-year-old girl. And it's true, there is that difference. So this was a very useful comment. And I made Tiki 17. And similarly with Honey, right in the beginning, in one of my earlier drafts, I said that Honey wore something very clashing. Like, she wore a black dress which went with her blonde hair. Like, Honey had dyed her hair blonde. And I said, look, that it's clashing. And then this lady who happens, she was she was an English lady, and she happened to tell me that, look, blonde and black don't clash. Like, this is things. These are things which I wouldn't know culturally. You know, so these are things which helped me. Yeah. And then, of course, go on improving, take hints from your readers, your beta readers, and then send it off to a publisher or a agent.
Before that step, I know that you've also done a lot of creative writing courses, right?
Yeah. Right in the beginning when I started writing, um, I was not very sure of myself. So I did quite a few creative writing courses. I did the Stanford University creative writing course. Then I did Gotham City. Then I did something called the Writers Bureau, which is again, I mean, these are all online courses. And I think even Anita Nair in Bangalore, she also has a creative writing course. I mean, I don't think that's online. I think you have to go there. But I think these courses are useful because they do teach you a thing or two. And well, I needed them.
So if someone has an inkling of an idea, it's maybe a good idea to get onto one of these courses and then have that support while writing a novel.
Oh yes, oh yes. I mean, I did it all before writing the novel because these were all just kind of um, prodding your creativity, so to speak. Yeah.
Great. And now, can you tell us about how you applied to publishers? Was that easy or was that heartbreaking?
No, it was one of the hardest things. I sent my manuscript to 33 or 34 publishers. And believe me, each time you send your manuscript, you have to read everything about the publisher, get the name right. It takes time to write that query letter. And each time I would get back replies like, "We love your novel, but we cannot use it now, or it's not the right one for us." I mean, but some of them wrote very nice letters. Some of them did not even bother to respond. This is all part of the game. But finally, yeah, one of my friends uh, told me to send my manuscript to Ravinder Singh, who publishes debut authors. And I'm really grateful to him because my novel is not a romance. He usually writes romances. My novel is not a romance or anything, but he took it on, and it's co-published with HarperCollins. And of course, HarperCollins has to approve of it also. So it was done through both of them.
And
It's a
now hopefully
slog.
it'll be
It's
a
a
movie.
slog. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, it's a slog. If any of you are planning to write, just be prepared for a long slog, but just have belief in yourself and you'll get there.
And how was your experience of the reviews? I know that when you get your first few reviews, you have a lot of mixed feelings about it.
Yeah, I was actually quite lucky in the sense that 90% of my reviews were very good. There are a couple which are not good, but all I can say is it's very good to have mixed reviews. And a writer has to develop a thick skin, and you're not selling ice cream. Like, not everybody will not like your book, and you have to be prepared for that. Some people may find it frivolous, some people may find it they may have expected much more of it, and it's not their kind of book and they don't enjoy it, and that's fine with me. If I mean, I would say 90% enjoyed my book, so that's fine. And I don't believe in paid reviews. I want genuine reviews. So I know sometimes I've heard of these paid reviews. I've been approached by reviewers, but I've never gone in for that.
It's very interesting to know. I'm sure it must be very interesting for everyone to know the behind the scenes of publishing and writing a book. So now, what is next for Pam and Padmini?
What is next for Pam? Yes, I've started on the sequel, and I haven't given it a name or anything, but it's going to be a mother-daughter, um, something about a relationship between a mother and daughter. And when Tiki grows up, I don't want to say more because I'm still working on it. Yeah.
That's very exciting. I think now maybe I'd like to open it up to everybody for questions.
Yes, please. I'm eager to hear your questions.
So you can type it in or you can unmute yourselves and ask away.
Thank you so
Hi,
much, Padmini.
Padmini.
Pragya here. My book just came today from Amazon.
Oh, lovely. I hope you enjoy it.
Can't wait to start on it.
Thank you. Great.
Paddy, I've started reading your book. It's read about 100 pages, and it's like it's so
Thank
real. You've really caught the nerve of the Dubai culture. Very
Thank
well.
you. There
Very well.
speaks the Dubai and yeah.
Yeah. And when you asked her about the A, B, and C list, it's true.
Oh, it
It's
is.
very true. It is. It
Oh,
is. Yeah.
I guessed right. I guessed
Yes, you
right.
did. You did. It's so true. Yeah. So it's very interesting. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
relate to everything. So I'm really enjoying it, every line by line.
Yes.
So, to get the gist of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks.
Enjoy it. Lovely. Yeah. Well done. Excellent.
Thank you.
Hello, Padmini.
Oh, who's that?
Hello,
Oh, hi.
that's
Hi.
me.
Yeah. Hi, Kala. Kala.
Hi.
Hi.
So I read your book not once but twice, and I found it very easy going, easy read, and the diction is very good. That is the flow of the words that you put in the book is excellent. So you
Thank
just
you.
keep on reading it till the end. You can't put it down. That's the beauty of the book. You
Thank
see,
you.
that's what I really liked about the book.
Thank
It's
you
very
very
nice.
much. Thank you.
Mm.
Does anybody have any questions, though? Even difficult questions?
Yeah, Padmini, I just want to ask you,
Yeah.
did that Kabir, who's Pam's explain,
Yeah.
did he know about Pam before joining, or he just came to know about her by chance?
He did know about Pam before joining. Like Pam
When
does
people join,
not. He does know about that. He joined the company, Pam's husband's company, knowing very well that Pam would be there. But it's she's a human being. So we all make mistakes. She doesn't have a proper affair with this guy, but she is very, very attracted to him. Yeah. So if
Thank you.
that answers your question.
Yes, thanks.
So I'd like to share that when I was reading the novel, it felt like, Gossip Girl for me set in Dubai. And I could not read it without a coffee and a chocolate. It's so decadent, so scandalous, so gossipy. And then you also deal with real world issues. And it's a fun read. It just takes you away from all the stress of lockdown and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
That's true. That's true. Yes.
That's quite true, Niharika. I also felt that in spite of the glamour with which you begin, eventually it comes down to the hard facts, which is the truth everywhere. The daughter growing up, even though she was being so rebellious, eventually she turns out to be really a very, very good friend. Which
Yes.
I've seen that as daughters grow up, they care so much about the mother. So I think that was really, I mean, she'd actually done such a good job as a mother, but she kept feeling she was not good enough.
Yeah.
Maybe in front of others or her friends or the social part.
Yeah. As women, we are just always told, we always feel we're not even told. We just feel we have to be this and we have to be that. We just, run ourselves thin. And it's not possible. We just have to say no. Like here, Pam, she lets her daughter be. She allows her daughter to be so rude to her. She doesn't set limits. She doesn't set boundaries. She lets her husband take her for granted. She doesn't set boundaries because she thinks she has to be this very good mother. She has to be this very good wife. And I think that's a lesson for all of us, that we have to set boundaries boundaries by people. Even your own dear ones, your own husband, your own children, you have to set boundaries by them and tell them, this is it. This is my life. This is your life. And that's it. You cannot cross that boundary.
Hmm. But that part where the mother in her, I felt it was a mother's instinct which took her to the airport, and she almost like saves her daughter there. And so it wasn't planned. It wasn't something she was. I mean, she was not thinking about the world or anybody for that matter. It was
Right.
just her natural instinct of a mother,
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
which was so protective. I thought that was so true.
Yeah, yes.
So
I mean, a mother is a mother. All of us, those of us who are mothers, yeah, we know that, you know, we have this instinct, and especially mothers and daughters. It's a it's a very special bond, I feel. Like, think of you and your own mother, it's just a very, very special bond.
true. At that age, especially when you're young, I
Especially
think
at that age.
they've
Uh,
saved
but
us far many
mothers
times.
and sons is also a special relationship, but I mean, I don't want to make it a cliche and say that
Yeah.
mothers and sons always get on well, because some mothers and sons don't get on well. But in this book, it just so happens that it's a very complicated and difficult relationship.
True.
Can I
Very
ask,
well done, Padmini. It was really good.
Thank you.
can I ask you something, Padmini?
Of course.
Okay. I read about the fact that you've also got screen rights. You've given screen rights for your novel, which
That's
so we'll talk about that. And the second thing that I wanted to ask you about was that in the write-up, I read something about a family history that you've self-published. So it
Yes, I have written a family history that was maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and it's called The Family from Padma Vilas, and it's about my family, and it's about my grandfather was a doctor, and my father was in the services, in the government service. Not the services. He started off in the air force, and then he was in the services. So it's about them and their life. So, but that's a family history. But I do, to talk about the movie. Well, it's just at a very, very beginning stage. I've just signed the screen rights, and I don't know. It'll take another 2 years before anything is done, because the agent just made me sign the rights, and that's it.
and I also read that you make very good gunpowder. So
I
is
do.
your gunpowder as spicy as your mother of all parties novel?
Yeah, I make it's called Molaha Podi in Tamil, and I make superb Molaha Podi. I have to boast about it, and anytime you're most welcome. If you come to Dubai, you taste my Molaha Podi. And it's very spicy. It's got just not too spicy. It won't send you up, blasting, but it is a very spicy thing. And yeah,
Fascinating.
it's
So
like
that
it's like a book.
yes. That must have been one of the most important ingredients that went into Mother of All Parties.
Yes, that's a nice way of putting it. Yeah.
We know exactly when the story went a little extra spicy and good one.
Yeah. I would love you all to read it, not because I wrote it, but I think you'd all enjoy it.
We're sure we would. We're sure we will order our copies. I'm sure all of us would, right after this talk, get on and order all our copies.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm sure you know real people in real life who would have like faint whispers of those people in the characters that you have built, because
Yeah,
I know I get the fact that most of it is creation of your mind, but somewhere in some sublime way, in some subliminal way, something must have left the imprint, and you must have looked at somebody subconsciously and said, aha, this one must be like that.
Yes, like Hari Serene is based on 2 or 3 people I know. And the party scenes are sometimes, this is the kind of talk you do here, and if you read the party scenes, I'm sure it's not just in Dubai, it is anywhere in the world, because I've had readers from
It's everywhere.
Yeah, from the US, from New Jersey, somebody read it and they said, "My God, the NRIs here behave in just the same way, like what you've described." So, yeah, it is
You're writing a social
comforting.
satire, if you're writing a social satire, you would take little slices of the society that you are familiar with and put
Yes,
it there. And at some
yes,
level, a lot of societies function
yes.
the same way.
Cause yes, definitely,
Yes.
definitely, it is based on not one or two. It's based on the many people I've met, little bits of their characteristics.
So if we ever meet all the people you know, then we will see all those people. And then all we say, aha, Padmini is based on that, isn't it?
I'm sure when you read it, you would have met such people in your life. Definitely,
I'm sure.
definitely.
Thank you.
Mm.
Good. That was good. I think God has these molds and he kind of reuses them many times, then throws them all across the world.
Yeah.
And for you to recognize and find them, actually, maybe all of us inside also have traces of most of
Yeah.
these traits, somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. We do.
So,
We do.
Including honey, I think. While I have seen these people, maybe once or twice I have acted like her.
Yeah.
yes.
Um,
Uh,
Honey was a very difficult character to write because I made her very unsympathetic, but towards the end, I tried to make people, I not you can't like her, but I've tried to soften it because everybody has two sides to them. Like people who are very snooty and snobby, they may be hiding something. That is why they're like that.
true, true. Great. I was
Maybe have
thinking,
pity on her.
yeah, you have pity on her.
Yeah, you have pity on her at the end. That's true.
So, Niharika, may I also ask you to tell us something about your book? While we are here together, I mean,
Sure. So it's called Adulting. So, like Pam's journey within, it's the journey of three millennial characters, Aisha, Ruhi, and Tejas. It's about how they find who they are as people. They're a little lost. They're lost millennials, and they learn to deal with certain challenges like body shaming, confidence, like Pam with her business. So I have Ruhi with her, she wants to have her own publishing house, so that's her conflict. And then we have Tejas, who is a writer who's dealing with writer's block. And then we have Aisha, who is trying to build a positive body image. She always body shames her own self and gets affected when people do that to her. So that is it. But I would
Hello?
like to share that Padmini and I, we are taking part in NaNoWriMo.
Yeah.
If anyone
Hello?
wants to join in, I have a little bit of an email group we can join in. So there are lots of resources available online. And I also teach creative writing. So I'm also happy to share whatever I know. We take the month of November and we write about 50,000 words. And they're all resources. There are ideas to generate stories, plot, character, everything. So it's basically a commitment of a month and a couple of hours every day. And we both are writing sequels of our novels together.
Yeah, actually, the mother of all parties started off as a NaNoWriMo book. That originally that was 7 years ago, and then I put it by. Like NaNoWriMo is actually a vomit draft. You just vomit out everything. You write every day. You don't think. You just go on writing, and then you shove the book aside and forget about it for some time, and then you go back to it, and then you start editing and stuff like that.
Listening to you and Niharika, I think it would be a fabulous idea if we could organize, like, let's say, a little writing workshop, for people who really want to write. Maybe we could explore that, because there are so many people who want to write and they don't know where to begin, and not everybody is as eloquent easily. So it would be really nice, because I do know, and after speaking with a lot of fantastic authors like both of you, one realizes the need for discipline. about sitting down for half an hour every day and writing, irrespective of what you write. Some will be trash, some will make sense. So if there could be like a writing workshop that you could do for ELSAs, it would be fantastic. Because I'm sure there are lots of us who don't know that there are writers hidden in us.
Yeah, exactly. They say everybody has a writer within them, so.
A storyteller for sure. A
Yeah,
storyteller for sure.
storyteller.
Yeah. So maybe we could have like a little bit of workshopping with people like you and Niharika, who could
Sure,
take
great
us through a little workshop.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. I think, Smita, that's a really good idea. I think if you could combine a bit of the theater with it, probably it would bring out
Absolutely.
the drama, no, a little more. So,
Absolutely. And storytelling go hand in hand. And the stories, when written on paper, committed on paper, become books. So that's it. It's all seamless. They flow into each.
Yeah. Yeah.
great, great,
The best
great. So
thing is,
that's
Niharika is a millennial and I'm a late baby boomer. I don't want to say I'm a baby boomer because that makes me sound ancient. So I call myself a late baby boomer. So I mean, and I don't know, I think people here we're all from different age groups and things. So it'll be really nice if we form a writing group. Those people who are interested.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of very good give and take that happens. Padmini, I wanted to ask you one last question. Which character out of your book stays with you? Who do you love the most?
Well, I love Pam the most because there's a little bit of me in Pam. Of course, I'm not the same as Pam, but there is something of me in Pam. So that is the person who I like the most. She's my baby. Yeah.
good, good. Thank you so much. I think anyway, it's still open. If anybody has more questions or.
Yeah, I would like to ask the same question of Niharika. Niharika, who is your baby in your book?
So I like all three of them. I think at different stages of my life, I identify with different characters. Sometimes Aisha when she's having body image issues, sometimes Tejas when I can't write, and sometimes Ruhi when I can't find the confidence that I need. So I feel like sometimes that I've divided myself into these three characters. But yes, I think that's the beauty of storytelling, that everything is relatable. Like how I can relate with Pam, who's a mom, and Tiki at the same time, and different characters at different points of time. And also, I think this leads to catharsis and a bit of growth internally, which is, I think, what storytelling is all about for the writer and the reader, right?
Listening to both of you talk, I can actually imagine a synthesis of both your books. You can position as a reader, because I love reading, I'm a voracious reader. So as a reader, I can actually plant some of your stories into Padmini's little society, and there could be a lot of like flowing in and out of stories, and that just makes writing so beautiful. And especially when two authors are together talking about their books, it just becomes very seamless and beautiful. Yeah.
And your book really sounds interesting. But next time I come back to India, I'll pick it up because it's not available here. But when I come down, it's three millennials. That's really, something I'd like to read and get a young person's perspective.
I think my characters would be friends with Tiki and Sid.
Yeah.
So it was good listening to both of you, and Smita's suggestion of this workshop. You've already got one attendee who says they would love to be in that workshop. So there you go.
Yeah. And why don't you join NaNoWriMo? It starts day after. Register and just sit down and start doing your I think 50,000 words in a month. That's what, isn't it? That's how much you can set your goal. You can make it 20,000 words in the month also. So
Can you tell us a little bit more about what NaNoWriMo is for some of us who are the uninitiated?
NaNoWriMo is, I think Niharika can tell us because you keep doing NaNoWriMo, right?
So it's basically a month, the month of November, and I think it's an NGO. It supports authors who want to write 50,000 words in November, and it offers them a bunch of resources because we can't write from a blank page, right? That's very, very hard. And it makes it very easy because it gives you story ideas, plots. It helps you develop things, develop ideas before November. So by the end of October, or even you can even start on 1st November. You can join, you can look at their resources, you can join a writing group like the one that Padmini and I are in, and you can go on and access their resources. For example, they have something called Adopt an Idea. So if you're writing about a certain character and you know you have to finish the book this month, you don't have time to go online and search for plot twists, character quirks. So there are forums where all this is available for you. So it's like it will help you brainstorm, it will help you put things together. And now that I think about it, writing, even I took very long with my first novel. But when all these resources are available, it just really helps speed up the process. And the biggest thing is you get to finish your book, right, Padmini? That's the biggest thing.
Absolutely. The main thing is finishing the book, Many times people start and they just leave it. And I've heard of people writing books for 10 and 12 years and things and not finishing. So.
Those people you can be sure of, they're not writing a sequel for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Good.
So Niharika, how can I sign up for that NaNoWriMo, what you said?
Pragya, it's there on the chat. You can see the website.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
That is there. If you want to join our email group, I put my email as well, guptaniharika@gmail.com. And if anyone is interested, I have my own writing course, which everyone can do. And if you want to join NaNoWriMo, we just have an email where we discuss challenges and stuff. It's a very simple thread where we just talk about blocks and how many words we're writing.
And the funny thing is, me, Niharika, and there's another girl who's also joined up in that group. All of us are facing the same thing. We all say we suffer from imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Like all writers do that. We're not really writers. What are we?
Yeah.
And it does hit you again and again that you're not really a writer. You just kind of stumbled into it. So I was very happy when I read that from both Niharika and Gitanjali, that they have the same kind of feelings as I do.
Well, that's very heartening because coming from someone, because I write off and on, not as on as all of you. I write off and on, and I write mostly in poetry and a little bit of short stories. And I always feel like, I'm not committed enough. And I get up with ideas at some 1 a.m, but that doesn't make for a successful writer. It makes for a sporadic writer, sure. And it makes for a lot of passion, sure. But it doesn't make for
Keep a diary next to your bed.
I do.
I have that. Very good. Yeah.
Scribbling in it.
You're on your way,
Well, so maybe that is why I'm very interested in joining the NaNoWriMo. And I'm glad that Niharika and you shared this idea, because it just gives us a way forward. What do we do next? Because at 1 o'clock, I definitely can't wake up people and say, okay, now talk to me.
I don't need to introduce, but Smita is the one doing all the posts that you get. So I think, Smita, you're quite busy for another year to come at least with all your writing. And I think I always just throw things on her and that's it.
Wow.
Because for me, writing means there's a block and it's only in numbers or lines that I can think and express, So Smita's a natural, I think, at this.
Thank you.
And thank you all of you so much. Thank you, Padmini. Thank you, Niharika.
Thank you.
And Smita and all of you. What we would like is really that if you could, spread it out to your other friends and ask them to join in as ELSA members and increase our membership. The more connect we have, the better it is for all of us, I think. Yeah. It's so wonderful to be able to speak like this across.
Right.
Yeah, not just in terms of the people we to speak with, but also in terms of the pool of resources that we have access to.
Exactly. Yes.
ELSAs everywhere are hugely full of substance, irrespective of what they're doing in whichever field they're in. And it's just very, very amazing to bring all the ELSAs together and create a pool and be able to share, and because that just makes life that much more interesting. So sure, like Parul said, please spread the word around, let more people become ELSAs. The more of us, the merrier it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like you say, the pooling in of resources, that's wonderful, Like just now we got this beautiful idea of a writer's
So
Yeah.
we do want mentors in each field like this. So that's where, on the website, we'll have a link to everyone's expertise, and the mentees who are ELSAs also could reach out to them for that.
Yeah, sure. Great.
Should we call it a day, Parul, if it's okay with you? Because
Yeah, I think you and Niharika are to decide. I think this has gone off so wonderfully, and with looking forward to all these workshops and so much more. I just want to also share that Niharika, I have actually met over one of these talks, with Rituparna's talk. And that's how I got in touch with her. And I realized we have one talent store over here, and reached out, and here we are, so going further, I hope we just join in link by link. And
So
thank you all of
that's
you who joined in and who always join in. It's so great.
Yeah,
so
and thank
Parul,
you
that's
very much.
another advantage of these talks, where we meet newer people, and we go to
Yes.
another
Right.
Correct.
topic. And
And may I just say a very special thanks to Niharika. I mean, she's really worked so hard and got such beautiful questions for me. Not all of them very easy questions, but they're very thought-provoking questions that she asked me. So thank you, Niharika, and thank you, Parul, and
All of us, all
and,
of us.
Smita, all of you, for just sitting and listening.
much, Padmini, for a beautiful session. And thank you, Niharika, for taking us through this beautiful session in a way only an author can have. A fellow author can understand. Can you hear me? Anyway, only a fellow author can take us through those questions and help us appreciate the journey that authors go through. So thank you very much, Niharika, for such a fantastic session. Thank you, Padmini, for sharing your journey with us and for discussing your book with us. And it just makes all of us very keen to promptly go and buy your book and Niharika's book, so that we also get to meet all these characters. Thank you so much.
And we've got people from Dubai here also, some for the first time. So
Right.
Kumud is here, Hasina is here.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, Ritu is there, but Ritu's come earlier also.
Yeah.
So
May I say something? Thank you, Padmini. This was the first time a GCC ELSA has represented us at the main platform. So cheers to that.
so we want more.
Yes, of course,
Yeah.
of course. We have a very lively bunch here.
Yeah, we have
Great
a
to
lot.
interact. Yeah. Great. Lovely.
Thank you, all of
Okay,
you
thank
for
you,
being here.
everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Kala.